Welcome to Jackets TV, presented by Ohio Health. I'm Bob McElligott, and I'm joined today by Jody, Shelley, and former Blue Jacket Freddy Modin. And we are here to talk about round one of the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Blue Jackets getting set to open their series with the Pittsburgh Penguins. And guys, it was just 3 years ago that these two teams were going head-to-head. Jody, you had just been here for a short period of time as a broadcaster, and that was a good series, but it's one where the Penguins were able to prevail.
Yeah, it definitely left you wanting more. I mean, that was such an exciting scene here at Nationwide Arena. I think the young players got a real sense of what kind of sports city they're in. I mean, you know the Buckeyes are here, you know the fans are in the area, but it was amazing to see what happened in that series. Overtime goals, excitement, and I love how the Blue Jackets has kept that core kind of together. So those guys have seen it. They've had a season of disappointment or two in between, and they're so fired up and focused to be back in this situation.
Freddie, you know all about the fans here because not only did you play here, you now live here year-round. So you're experiencing it from a different side, but you've always known how good the people can be here when this team's winning.
Yes, and I mean, I was fortunate to be part of that team that made the playoffs against Detroit. Now, terrible to remember the years.
2009.
But just the way this building exploded during that time, or leading up to the playoffs. So I've had the first-hand experience of that, and it's a terrific place to play at.
In that series, everybody was so excited because you guys made it in. And then it was short-lived, but it kind of set the tone. And then there was disappointment afterwards. And where the Blue Jackets are right now, it's kind of the same thing. The last time they played the Penguins, everybody thought the foundation was there to be going to the playoffs every year. Didn't happen. But now, do you get the sense that this team is more set up, that they need to get in here, they need to get this experience, and hopefully they win the whole thing. But if not, they get the valuable experience to be able to start coming back year after year?
The way the team has been playing this year, that's the sense you get, obviously. And to me, being a fan, looking at this, you know, obviously this season is a success, no matter what happens here in the first round. We got to understand that we're playing the defending Stanley Cup champions in the first round. This team, what they have done over this past year, getting over 100 points in this league, really have proved to me that this is a team to count on for the next couple of years. But again, like Jody touched on, this is a team that I think the players are very comfortable playing against. They've had some good games against them. They feel confident playing against this club in Pittsburgh. So I'm looking forward to watching this, and you know, I'm excited, very excited to see where this team is going to go, and obviously starting with the playoffs this year.
Freddie, you came here. When you came here, you had some great playoff experience under your belt. And you look at this team now, and they're young. And you look at the team you guys won with in Tampa. There's a lot of similarities, but there were some veteran guys with experience. And how important is that? There's a few here. There's Hartnell. There's Quincy they just picked up. He's been there. How important is that, do you think, for these young guys who are walking into this?
It is important, absolutely. And these are the type of guys that can calm a team down when the team needs to settle down a little bit. They've been around. They know, you know, the young kids are just so excited and just want to go out there. And sometimes you need guys to hold them back a little bit, and that's what these guys are going to bring to this team.
And it's just going to be, I mean, I remember my first playoff shift. I kept it so short. Like, I'm talking like 10 seconds because I was.
Sure, it wasn't the coach keeping
I was so nervous. But the responsibility is heightened, and that's something I expect the first 10 minutes in Pittsburgh. They're a team that plays so well at home, but that's got to be the focus right now. Don't you agree?
I agree with you, and the guys know this. They know this. The first 10 minutes is going to be a high intensity. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch, but guys are going to keep their shifts short. No one wants to make a mistake. No one wants to turn the puck over in the wrong spot. So it's going to be a hard forechecking first 10 minutes, and I can't wait to watch that. It's going to be fun to watch.
So are you guys saying that on that first shift you kind of jump over the boards, make a play, and if you don't screw it up, you go, I'm good, and right back?
Yeah, almost. It's going to be close to that. I'm pretty sure with some of the guys, but it's great. And you know, as Jody touched on, that's where the experience of the guys that's been around a little bit, they can kind of calm these guys down a little bit and get them into the game the right way.
There's nothing like a Game 7 in a Stanley Cup playoffs. I've never been there, but you've been there. Is there anything that describes that? Is it just What is that experience like?
I've been fortunate to play a couple. I remember it was Eastern Conference Finals 03-04. We were playing Philadelphia that year. The series ended up going to a Game 7. We had home ice advantage. So playing a Game 7 in your own building, it really is, we're talking about getting into the playoffs, everything gets magnified, right? And if it's a Game 7, it's even more magnified. It's every little thing that you do has such consequences, right? But just the excitement around the town for that game. We felt confident going in playing Philly. We had played well against this team the whole season, so we were excited to get it over with and move on. My second one was the same year, or actually in the finals against Calgary. We get the Game 7 at home, and that was a little bit different. It was a feeling that finally this is going to end. Tonight it's going to end. We can leave it all out there, and obviously you're nervous, but after that game we're going to have a winner, and obviously you want to be that winner, but it wasn't as anxious as we were, I think, in Game 7 against Philly, where we felt the pressure that we wanted to win, that we should win this and move on.
It's live and die right from Game 1. I mean, and when you get to Game 7, that's a whole other animal.
Now, you won that Stanley Cup with John Tortorella as the head coach. And we could ask you all about how he is in the playoffs, but that was a long time ago. And he has said that he has mellowed a little bit over the years. And he's learned, and he has adapted to the league the way it is now. Do you believe any of that, or is he going to be Mr. Intensity?
No, I mean, he's intense, and whether he changes or he's probably changing something else. This is an intense man to have on the bench, but he does it in a way that gets your players fired up and gets them on the same page as he wants them. He's a smart man. I'm sure he has adapted and changed things in his way and in his approach to the players, but I don't believe in the intensity not being there with him, because that's one of his biggest assets.
Bob, I want to talk about this series, and when we look at the Penguins, we're very familiar, and how this sets up is pretty remarkable. All the storylines, the defending champs, Torts and Sully. How do you see this matching up in your eyes? I mean, you're a guy that you're pretty close with Pittsburgh, and you grew up in that area, but how do you see this series setting up?
Well, like you said, all the storylines are there. Brandon Dubinsky, Sidney Crosby, John Tortorella, Mike Sullivan, absolutely. And then you've got that 3 years ago thing, which I think is so important for the fans, especially here. I've said this repeatedly. Pittsburgh is a rival to the Columbus Blue Jackets fans. I don't think Columbus is a rival to the Pittsburgh Penguins fans yet. It's budding. It's there. It could happen, but they've had the Flyers for 50 years that they've been going against across the state. This is actually closer geographically. If you could take out the Pittsburgh Penguins, it's rivalry on. That's what I think. But how does it match up? You've got a Penguins team that's been banged up all year. They're getting guys back, and you guys can talk more about this than me. Even when guys come back, they might not be coming back at 100%.
Right.
You've got a guy like Modin hasn't played in months, and now he's going to come back and have that high intensity of the playoffs. But I think it matches up really well. I think it's really similar. Yes, they have two superstars in Crosby and Malkin. I get that. But the Blue Jackets, because of their depth and the way they just keep rolling on you and coming wave after wave after wave, and the Penguins do that too, besides those two guys, I think it's really similar. And I think that, unlike 3 years ago, I think the Blue Jackets are matched up much better against this team. And I think you're going to see it. I think a lot of things are going to be even. If you can control 87 and 71 and do your best to negate them, now you're getting two teams that are almost identical to me.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I think, everyone talks about matchups, and it would have been great to play in the Atlantic and go against Montreal. But I mean, I know how I feel. I think you take on the chance. You're going to face them, and I love the way it sets up, especially that they're banged up. And I think for the Blue Jackets, as you said, Freddie, they found confidence this year. They found some spirit, and that's a good thing going into this situation.
I agree, and I think if you ask the players on the Blue Jackets, what team do you want to play in the first round of the playoffs, I wouldn't be surprised if most of them would say Pittsburgh Penguins, because of what they did 3 years ago. and the way this team has matched up against Pittsburgh since then. So I think guys are going to be ready. Obviously, as you touched on, Bob, they have two guys that are standing above everybody else pretty much in the league. They're top players in the league and have been for a few years. Not just individually very good. They've been through this. They have the experience. So these are players that the Penguins can lean on in any situation. So usually that plays a little bit of a part in a 7-game series. We're in for a treat.
I wanted to ask you guys, but let's talk about the Blue Jackets superstar. Let's not leave him out of the picture here, because you won a Stanley Cup. Nikolai Khabibulin was terrific when you won a Stanley Cup. The goaltender makes the difference. Matt Murray was hot last year. He took the Penguins all the way to the end.
Yeah.
Matt Murray this year, he's been good, but not great. He's been injured at points. Marc-Andre Fleury has come in, and he has played well. I think they have two goaltenders that are playing very similar right now, but the Blue Jackets have that standalone goaltender in Sergei Bobrovsky, and he's a guy that in the past, when he's had a chance to get into the playoffs, hasn't been the best in the playoffs, and I think he's going to take that as a huge challenge. Just look at this whole year, Jody. Last year, when he wasn't hurt, he wasn't good. He was average. This year he comes back and probably wins the Vezina Trophy. So that's his mentality, to go get it.
Listen, this team has got something to prove, and Sergei Bobrovsky's had something to prove. There's no doubt. The Blue Jackets win if Sergei Bobrovsky is Sergei Bobrovsky, like we've seen the last few weeks. And obviously there's some other things in there, but Sergei's got to be a superstar. There's no question. The Blue Jackets have got to attack their D with Letang out. There's no question. But there's a lot of things you guys are saying. I love the emotion in this series. You know, I've been in series where a few years ago it was Philadelphia and the Pittsburgh Penguins, and it was emotional, and it favored the Flyers. Then we go in and play New Jersey, and we went flat because they wouldn't engage. And I love the way this sets up for the Blue Jackets, because they like the emotional games, they like the hit, they like the intensity, they like to frustrate Malkin, Crosby. Those are all good things. And then the play of Sergei Bobrovsky, plus he's a leader. Remember that. I mean, there's leadership in many forms. Sergei Bobrovsky is the leader behind John Tortorella of this team, I believe, in the way he works, the way he focuses, and the way he keeps his levels, his standard really high.
Freddy, I was on a show yesterday in Pittsburgh, and they were saying that after the Blue Jackets played the Penguins last Tuesday, that the Penguins players were talking about that they have figured out how the Blue Jackets, where they want to position to block shots, that they're going to pack in, so that their tactics are going to be to send the puck out to the blue line, try to get slap shots using those shot blockers as screens. And the other thing that they talked about was the Blue Jackets taking runs at players instead of just getting them in scrums after a whistle, just trying to take runs at players, and they felt that they had the speed to get away from a lot of those runs. So with that being said, how do the Blue Jackets play that part of the game? As Jody said, they need to hit, they have to be physical. How do you do it most effectively?
I think they just keep doing, just like Jody said, Blue Jackets wants to play the Penguins. These players wants to prove to their fans that we can play against these teams, and we can beat them. And that's the way they have to play. And if you look back at every game they're playing against Pittsburgh Penguins, it's a physical game. It's always a couple of scrums, and you can count them on. You know exactly who's going to be in them. I don't think they should worry too much about what everybody else is saying. They just need to stay on what they need, what they have to do, and play the way they have been playing against these guys in the past. I'm excited to see Dubinsky playing, getting out there playing Crosby. You know he's going to get under his skin, and you know something's going to happen out of that. Part of Blue Jackets' game is that hard forechecking game, finisher checks, and they have the guys that can hit like trucks out there, and that's going to wear these guys down over the course of a couple of games.
And I love that, because in a long series, these guys can wear them down. Another thing we got to remember is the Blue Jackets have more skill now than they did 3 years ago when they faced the Penguins. There's young players with skill, and they've played with that this year, and it's been a nice combination. We've talked about Dubinsky and Hartnell and these emotional guys, Jenner, who are going to bring that. But Werenski, if he gets back in that lineup, I mean, there's that element there that calms everything down on the back end out of this rookie with just his skill. Those are going to be details that are going to be relied upon, especially for forwards. You cannot, if you're stuck in your zone and you can't get that defenseman to get you the puck, which the Pittsburgh is very good at, I think that's going to be a key in this series too, is the Blue Jackets realizing use your skill along with this emotional game.
And they've got to play smart too. I mean, you can run around and you can hit, but if you're taking penalties against this team, you're in trouble.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And that's what that's the game I'd like to see them play. It's just that hard forechecking, finish your checks, stay out of the stupid stuff, and just focus on keep putting pressure on these guys. Because I think you do that, you will wear them down. You know, it might not show game 1, but come game 3, these guys, you don't want to, as a defenseman, you don't want to go back and get that puck. You go back there because you have to, especially when you have Josh Anderson chasing you down from behind. You don't want to go and get that puck. And when you're constantly getting hit and constantly getting someone finishing your check, eventually you're going to make a couple of mistakes or make a couple of soft plays where we have guys that can take advantage of those type of plays.
All right, let's get right to it.
I'm excited.
What do you think? I bet you we're all going to pick the Blue Jackets in this series, but what do you think? What are your feelings, and how many games does this thing go?
I think the start of this series is going to be remarkable because we got so many young players that are walking into Pittsburgh, which is going to be a hostile environment. I think when they get settled down and get on their game, the Blue Jackets are going to take over this series. I think they're going to win in 6 games. And I think game 1 is going to be, if they can steal game 1, it puts the pressure back on the Penguins.
That's a punch in the mouth.
That is, and it's the way the Blue Jackets have played all year. They've went after teams. They've scored the first goal. They've initiated the play. They've carried the play. If they can do that, that's probably their focus now. If it doesn't happen, they'll get refocused for game 2 and get back here with the energy. They know what's waiting here in Columbus. They know what they're representing when they're in Pittsburgh. They're going to carry that with them. I just feel that they can frustrate with their game and their goaltending. They can frustrate the Penguins.
I say 6 games, and I said that from the start. I think we're going to win 6 games. We're going to split, win away, and take game 6 at home.
Well, your fellow alum, Jean-Luc Grandpierre, told me on the phone earlier today that he was the first guy to pick Blue Jackets in 6. So
okay.
I'm just going to say that so when he watches this, he can laugh and say, that's right, I did say that. But anyway, I agree with both of you guys. And not because you're so smart, but because it's going to be a war of attrition, I really think. And it's going to take time to wear them down. Totally agree. If you can go into Pittsburgh and get game 1, I can tell you from being from there, if you go in there and take game 1, the Penguins may not panic, but there's going to be thousands of people outside of that building that are going to panic, and the shows are going to light up, and the Blue Jackets can strut around the streets in downtown Pittsburgh for a couple of days. But it is going to be a tough challenge, but I think they will persevere, and it would be great to win it at home. It's great to win anywhere, right, Freddie? But to win it at home is special.
It really is. You know, as we talked about, we touched on the Game 7 thing, but when you can finish a series out at home, it's a special feeling, and it gives you that you just want more. You just want more. You just want to keep going. Start the next.
Goosebumps.
Yeah, it's exciting. I can't wait for this to start, and can't wait for game 6 at home because that's when we're going to win.
Oh, baby.
All right, and it's great to have you involved in this, and great to get the alumni back into this and what has been a really special season that we hope continues for another couple of months. So that's going to do it for our preview of the Blue Jackets Penguins first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. For Frederick Modin and Jody Shelley, I'm Bob McElligott. Thanks for watching Jackets TV, presented by Ohio Health.